How you doing?
Why is everybody here?
The first order of business.
Oh.
I think it's on now, right?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. New Year. I'd like to call the meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission order, the January 5th, 2017 meeting at 7:05 p.m. In attendance at tonight's meeting, our newest member, alternate member Mace, regular members Holtgren, Sienna, Leskovich, and I'm acting chair Galdenzi. The first order of business will be the minutes of the November 17th meeting. So that should be in everyone's packets. I was here, Fran, and Ron, and Dave, so we can approve these minutes. I'll give you a second to look them over if you haven't looked them over. See him? Good. Do you need to see him? You saw him. Good. Questions, comments?
I motion we accept the November 17 minutes.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes pass. Ron motioned, Fran second. Next order of business, we'll have two public hearings. What we'd like to do is, we'll make someone can make a motion to amend the agenda to hear the public hearing, B, PZ application 2016-14. It's a straightforward, just town business one that shouldn't take very long. So we would just like to present that first, and then we'll go to the second order of business, which will be the one on the property on Northford.
I make a motion that we amend the meeting to hear the P&Z application 2216-14.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so next we'll hear P&Z application 2016-14, which is a special use permit request under section 23, Schedule A, line B3.1, to allow use after the fact of Reynolds Beard's house as a museum house by the Totucket Historical Society, 1740 Foxton Road, map 26, lot 34. Owner, town of North Branford, applicant Totucket Historical Society.
So this application, we have some members of the Totucket Historical Society here this evening, so I'll let them maybe explain in some detail, but just to give some quick background to the commission. This is a straightforward application requesting the use of the Reynolds Beard's house going from a single-family home to a museum. Of course, it's been used this way for the past 20-some years. Recently, it was discovered that a special use permit was never actually obtained for that change of use, so we're going through this motion after the fact. So we've been working with the Historical Society members to remedy this situation.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Texera, current president of the Historical Society. And due to some recent litigation, it was discovered that the property was never permitted for use as a museum. It's been used as a museum for the past, 19 to 20 years. There was a lease agreement indicating that it was a museum. It's open like 2 days a week to the public. We have events scheduled throughout the year, colonial dinners. We have our monthly meetings there. We have a holiday bazaar where the public is invited into the building. And we're expanding our work with the school system and inviting children from the community into the building. We just are looking to get this permit changed from single-family house to museum.
A couple questions.
Sure.
Who in fact owns the building?
The town of North Branford.
Who, the town maintains it? Or
The
is
town
it-
maintains the exterior and major utilities, and we maintain the interior. They maintain the electricity, electricity,
no.
heating, that kind of thing.
I've seen the way the town maintains things, and
Yes.
that's what I was just.
It's not, it's not what you would expect, but that's what the agreement is.
Right, I just, as a museum, the Historical Society would have more hands-on knowledge of what the museum needs as opposed to Public Works.
Correct. Correct.
So who has the final say once it becomes a museum?
I'm hoping that we would have the final say on what, is done interiorly and exteriorly. We have worked in collaboration quite well together for the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm hoping that that could continue. But maintaining a house dated in the 1700s can be expensive. It needs to be repainted. Budget
So
money
just-
is short.
No, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, this is just because they discovered that there was no
It was
special
just
use
discovered
permit
that it was
taken
never
out, so we're
converted
just
to
trying
the
to make
appropriate.
things correct.
No,
Right.
I'm asking the questions because I'm nosy.
Yeah, be nosy later.
I mean, they've
know a lot of people
already,
here.
the fire commissioner, I don't think it's called commissioner, the fire
Fire marshal
has already been in the interior, made some changes. So they're trying to get it up to the speed where they feel it's, appropriate for the public to use.
Yeah, okay,
We're good.
good. Any other questions? Commission? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to come up and speak, we just ask that you raise your, if there's multiple people, raise your hand, come up, give your name and address, and then make your statement, comment, question. So would anyone from the public like to speak on behalf of this? Okay, seeing none. We can close the public hearing. We'll actually make the decision later under section 5, but
You know what I should do? I did get referrals from the
Okay, yeah,
various
please do.
officials in town. So the zoning officer had no comments. The town engineer also said that there are no outstanding engineering staff comments since no on-site improvements are proposed. And the building official just said that the site must comply with building code in effect at time of application.
okay. Good.
Building codes and what regulations
Building code regulations.
as what kind of structure?
That's a good question. So as part of the application, there was an attachment which had a description, a narrative as to how the building was going to be used. So that's what the building official has taken into consideration. So they talk about the monthly meetings of 10 to 15 people, and then, approximately 25 people at dinners. So he would look at it based on that occupancy load.
Who's looking at, if it's a museum, does it need handicap access?
That was discussed at length, and he found something in the code that does not require handicap access because of the historic nature of the home. We looked at that at length, though. We looked at various access points, and it just, quite honestly, didn't make sense because the amount of work that you would have to do to the exterior of the home, you'd lose a lot of the character, and then even getting someone into the home in a wheelchair, they couldn't leave one area because the door widths aren't wide enough to get a wheelchair through. So one of the things actually that we've talked about is working with the Historical Society and the library to have a video so that someone could watch a video in the library if they're not able to actually go into the house.
Any other questions? Public, last chance.
I just have a question.
Yeah, you want to come up and name, address, and make your question? Take your question.
My name's Al Texera, I'm with the Historical Society. My question is, since this all started, we've been banned from going into the building. So we haven't been able to do any of our business. We lost a really big fundraiser because we couldn't have the colonial dinner. I was talking to somebody and they said possibly get a waiver just so we can get ourselves into the building to get paperwork and stuff that we need. So if somebody could just let us know the first chance we get, it'd be great. Thank you.
Right, I think that would be building official,
Town staff, yeah. Town
question.
official, something.
just to make sure that they can go in.
What would be holding them up once they get this approved?
That's something that I would want to ask the building official, if there's anything that he would require based on the code. And in the motion that I drafted, I just talked about complying with the building code, or the building official's recommendation, and then those of the fire marshal. So I don't know if the fire marshal is looking for additional smoke or carbon monoxide detectors or lighting or anything that needs to be done. But I'll ask the building official and just make sure.
I don't know if I have to go up, but my name is Dottie Savastano, also with the Historical Society. We've already complied with the recommendation from the fire marshal, which only required additional fire extinguishers, actually one additional one. We have them that were sufficient, and they put in smoke detectors, additional smoke detectors. CO2 ones. So we've already complied with relatively all the inspections that were needed within the application. So, one other thing I just wanted to say is that, the importance of maintaining and having a historical building and other things that are on that property as well, the Miller Farm, the old gas station and stuff, is significant for our town. We don't want to miss an opportunity to preserve these buildings and make them open to the public and to our town. We don't want to be the only town on the shoreline that doesn't have a historical significance to preserve. And there are a lot of people in the Historical Society over the last 19 years that have dedicated and come forth with their own time to do all these things. So, that's my really 2 cents in preserving the property and being able to go back to what we were using it without, after the fact, without the permit. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
So they can
How long have you been denied access?
Typically,
Since May,
right,
May?
May,
right,
May 27th.
yeah.
Do we have any way of lifting this, do not enter?
So well, correct me, so we're looking at the special use permit as the zoning commission. Fire marshal, building code official, that's separate things.
Right.
We don't, that's
We're
their,
not, right.
that's their
We're not
business,
putting
not
the
our
ban
business.
on
We
them.
can't make any ruling
Okay.
for them, above them, below them, whatever. That's their business, not our business, unfortunately. So,
But
sorry.
I will ask tomorrow,
Yes.
and I'll speak with the town manager as well.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, thank you. So we will close the public portion of this, and we'll take it up under number 5 after we hear this next public hearing. So the next public hearing is PC application 2016-113. 2016-13. It's a proposed amendment to zoning map for parcel at 50 Clintonville Road. It's map 64, lot D4, from an R40 to an age-restricted housing district, floating zone. Owner applicant, 24 to 30 Clintonville Road Associates.
And there was a legal notice for both of those items.
Okay, this was put into the Sound on Thursday, December 23rd, 2016, and and Thursday, December 29, 2016. Notice is hereby given that the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing 7 p.m. on Thursday, January 5th, 2017 at the North Branford Town Hall, 909 Foxen Road, North Branford, Connecticut, to consider the following. Application 2016-13, proposed amendment to the zoning map for parcel at 50 Clintonville Road from R40 to Age Restricted Housing, ARHD floating zone. Owner applicant 2430 Clintonville Road Associates. And also was application for 2016-14 special use permit to requesting to allow after the fact of the Reynold Beers House as a museum house by the Totucket Historical Society at 1740 Foxen Road. Owner, Town of North Branford. Applicant, Totucket Historical Society. At the hearing, all interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies of the proposal are on file for public inspection at the Town Hall Planning Department.
So in attendance for this public hearing, and actually the prior public hearing, is alternate member Mace, regular member Holtram, Sienna, Leskovich, and Geldenzi. So, yes, please. You can
Good evening, I'm
present.
Diane Whitney from Pullman and Conley, representing the applicant for this request for a zone change. Four of you will undoubtedly remember that some time ago, you passed a text amendment to allow this zone in North Branford, and now we are here tonight to ask that we locate this floating zone at this property at 50 Clintonville Road. I have already given your town planner copies of the notices to abutters and copies of the sign, picture of the sign that was posted on the property. One change I want to tell you about right away is that the narrative for this application says that the size of the parcel is 7.7 acres, and that is not correct. It is 6.39 acres. It doesn't change any of the calculations for the application, but the correct size is 6.39 acres. This application meets all the requirements for the floating zone on this property. It abuts industrially zoned property and residentially zoned property. One of the reasons that you passed this zone was to act as a transition between industrial and residential sites, and this one does do that. I have smaller copies of the plan that I thought might be more helpful for you, or of the survey, than the large one. What I've handed out is just a small copy of the survey that has been filed with the application. There is on this property a small area of wetlands at the southeast corner of the property, but no activity is planned in the wetlands or in the upland review area of the wetlands. It has been determined that there's no part of this property that would be appropriate for open space, as we're required to have for one of these zones. But there is we are allowed to pay a fee in lieu of open space. And working with your town planner, it has been determined that the fee in lieu of the open space for this property would be $4,917.66, which we agree with. The application, excuse me, as you have seen before, is for age-restricted single-family homes. 25 of them on a looped private road with access from Firelight Road. It will be at a density of 4 units per acre for a total of 25 units. The requirement is that it be no more than five units per acre, and it satisfies that requirement also. Going through some of the other requirements for this zone, there will be a maintenance agreement by the developer so that until a certain number of units have been sold at this development, the developer will maintain the landscaping and the private road. At some point, when a sufficient number of units have been sold and occupied, there will be a homeowners association. And we'll go into more of the details of all those things. If you approve this zone change, the next step will be the special use application, and the real details of the application we'll present at that time. As you have in your application materials, all utilities for the site are available. You have a traffic report from BL Companies that shows there will be no impact from this development. And you will now want to see the conceptual plan, which some of you have already seen in the past. And I also have small copies of that for you. And Mark Calabro will explain to you the conceptual plan.
So most of you've seen this before. It's 25 single-family homes, approximately 1,400 to 1,700 square feet each. We're anticipating, 3 to 4 different unit types, all roughly in that size range. As you can see, the entrance is off Firelight, and it has a ring road. There's an open space kind of park area in the center. And again, this is just a concept plan. This is not a final design. This will evolve. But that's generally where our plan is. Any questions I can answer for you? Or?
Your zoning requirements.
Can you just state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry, Mark Calabro, Belmonte Companies.
The requirements in your zoning regulations are that contours be on this conceptual plan, but our concern was that that was going to make it too crowded to be intelligible. So I'd like to ask that you waive that requirement at this point, and when we come in for the special use, we'll have a plan that has the contours of the land on it. Also, the detailed maintenance agreement will come with the special use application. Your requirements for your decision include that this application accomplish the purposes in 38.1 of your regulations. And we suggest that, in fact, it will do that because since this will be age restricted to 55 and older, it will respond to the changing demographics in North Branford and give some new and flexible housing opportunities for people 55 and older. It also has flexible design techniques, and by virtue of the fee that we will pay, we'll preserve open space in that way. As I mentioned before, it will serve as a transitional zone between the industrial zoned land, which, as you look at that, is to the left, and the residential zone land, which is to the right. For these applications, the property has to be between 5 and 15 acres, and this is 6.39 acres. Has to be no more than 25% wetlands. This site has 7% wetlands. A maximum density of 5 units per acre, and this has 4 units per acre. Our next stage will be the more detailed information. about this application. But at this point, we ask that you approve the zone change, and then we will move on to the special use application next. Do you have any questions for us at this point?
Being the new kid on the block, what's the hash area back here, the proposed property line adjustment, is that part of this, or?
No, that's not. That is,
That's actually not going to happen.
Initially, we were
Because
going to-
that's the difference between the 6.39 and
It
the
is.
7.3 change.
Exactly.
So that's not happening.
Right.
So what happens to those houses?
Well, that's why this is a conceptual plan. This is
So they're gonna be switched
reconfigured.
together,
They're
It's
gonna-
actually gonna kind of curve down a little bit more potentially.
so there'll be more switched together.
But it'll
Oh,
still
there's a
be-
new one, okay.
It'll still be within the, within the setbacks and separations as outlined.
So I think just for the commission's sake, if you remember, we met a while back and worked quite extensively on the text amendment, which was approved. So tonight, we're not approving this specific layout, as it was mentioned several times. It's just we're approving the zoning change to allow for this age-restricted overlay to be applied there.
You're really
So-
improving the concept of the age-restricted zone,
Yeah.
and then next stage would be the real details of just how we will do that on this
So
property.
this will help us to kind of get the concept, but we're not, don't say that should be moved to the left and to the right. That's for the next phase, if we go to the next phase.
I have copies, if anyone from the public is interested in this section 38, which outlines the regulations. I'll have this as an entire. Oh, sure. Do you mind turning the map so
So-
the commission members have it? Right.
So while I have the applicant, the commission, do we have any questions now? We can obviously ask later too, but if you have any questions now, for the applicant? Okay.
I have a question, is any of this?
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
have
I'm
a,
sorry.
yeah, that's okay. Any other questions for the applicant now? Any further statements? Then we'll have us open it up for the public.
Would you like us to leave this up here?
Yeah, that would be helpful, if you don't mind. Sure.
Do you want me to go through the, I only have one referral.
Yeah, we'll go through referrals and we'll have open it to the public.
So at this point, I only have one referral, which is from the town engineer. I did not refer it to the police, which I can do if you'd like to continue the public hearing, just to get their input, even though we're not at the site plan review stage, just to get input on traffic. But the town engineer reviewed this, and he said, the following are general engineering staff comments regarding the above referenced application. The North Branford Water Pollution Control Authority, WPCA, has made a finding that capacity exists in the sanitary sewer system for the proposed development. See the letter dated 11/10/2016. If the proposed change is approved, the WPCA requirements must be addressed during the site plan review phase. He also said details and location of the access location and stormwater provisions, including detention, will need to be provided during the site plan review phase of the proposed development.
Okay. At this point, we'll open it up for public comments, questions. Just again, ask that you, if there's multiple people, just raise your hand. Don't make it too formal, but if there's many people, raise your hand. I'll choose someone to come up. State your name, address, and then make your comment, question.
My name is Scott Small. I'm a resident in town. And just, are all these houses the exact same?
No, they're not.
They're not.
There's gonna be-
They're all the same, exact same footprint?
No.
That's
That's
just
a
for,
concept plan. That's
Yeah, so
simply,
Okay. Right.
that's, I just wanted to, that's why I mentioned the commission, just so we're clear. Not that you can't ask questions like that, but tonight really is just to approve the zoning change.
Mhm.
When we come back for the site plan, we'll have the full details of what they're proposing, and then that's when we can get to the kind of nitty-gritty of that. Tonight's really just looking at, can we approve or making comments on allowing the zone change.
But in the same concept, this is for an aging community, so I would think you would have areas for people to walk and enjoy it. And I guess my concern is I just think it's too dense for everything in here. And one of the major requirements in your first thing is to allow preservation of significant areas of open space on tracts of land with conventional forms. So I was just thinking it would be, in my opinion, you do less units and nicer units and give a little more back to the land and have some opportunity for these people to enjoy this land around here. You have a bunch of single lane driveways, so if anybody wants to go anywhere, they gotta move the other person's car to get out. I just think it's too crowded.
Okay.
I love the idea. I do love the idea. I think the concept is great. I think that the town is on the right track in making areas like this. I just feel that this, and then the contours, I know they're not on here. Is there anything that we should know about this? Does it all slope in one direction?
Generally flat.
Generally flat, okay. And again, well, obviously the appearance and stuff comes later. Like I said, I kind of agree with the use. I just think that the density is a little too compact.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, if you could come up to the microphone too, to help record.
Hi, I'm Nancy Warfield. I live at 52 Quintabella Road. So I am that residential area right next to this property. So even though I may love the idea, I don't love it there. I moved there 22 years ago to be surrounded by woods, and shortly after that they put in an ice skating rink. So now they're going to put in houses. And, you know, I'm really just concerned about having that there. You know, I've heard it said it's not going to affect traffic, but it will affect traffic, just like the skating rink did, and which also increased emergency traffic. And being 55 and older myself, I know how that will also add to creating more emergency traffic. So I just really wanted to express my hope that this doesn't go through, but you know, I do have questions too about it, so if it's not appropriate, just let me know. You know, I wasn't sure what was meant by open space. I mean, my space is what's open right here next to it. How far in are they gonna be building from my property? How far back from the wetlands are they gonna be building? You know, and what kind of border are they gonna be putting up between my property and this area? Is there a border that's gonna be put up? Am I gonna have to deal with trespassing? So, you know, it's these kind of things that I'm concerned about, and if I can get answers now, that's great. If it needs to be another time, that's good, and if I could get a copy of the specs.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of distances to wetlands and to your property, there are setbacks that are in our regulations, so they have to meet those setbacks clearly. In terms of open space, I think they're actually not, open space, you're actually making a payment in lieu
Yes,
of
correct.
open space. I think the reference was that money could maybe be used for other open space. So there's no open space per se. as part of
Except my
this.
property right next to it.
Is this the wetlands down here?
Yeah.
Then they have 3 houses within the setback of the wetlands. All these houses are within the required setback.
Well, if I can go back to the first question about setbacks. So I think I just gave you a copy of this, right? So you can look over that at a later point, but in here it does say that the setback requirements from a private street is 20 feet, but you're asking about property lines. So minimum side and rear setback of 30 feet. And 50 feet from a public street. So a public street would be Firelight or Clintonville Road. The interior road would not be considered a public street because it's a private road. And regarding your property, There is a requirement in here that there be a 15-foot wide buffer area containing landscaping, fencing, and/or berms between the district, which would be, if that's rezoned, that would be considered the district, and adjacent property in order to provide privacy from the adjacent use. A minimum of 50% of the trees and shrubs planted in the buffer zone shall be evergreens. And then it says buffer areas may be part of the required lot setbacks if there is sufficient landscaping, berm, and/or fencing to assure privacy. And then the commission does have the right to reduce the width if there's an existing combination of a berm, fencing, landscaping, satisfies the goal. So that was written into the regulations, just thinking about privacy. And then also it does say in here that the buffer area has to be maintained by the homeowners association. And regarding the wetlands regulation, because I staff the wetlands agency as well, I know that we do allow for activity within the upland review area, which is 100 feet from a wetland. However, it would have to come before the wetlands agency at the time, prior to any development being approved. So again, when they get to that next step, if there's any work within that 100-foot upland review area, they would have to file at the same time with wetlands that they file with planning and zoning.
Which just kind of goes along with what this gentleman was talking about, how it's just getting everything more and more, like, that's fitting a lot of stuff in a smaller and smaller area.
Very dense, yes, very dense. Lacks privacy between units and all kinds of things.
Right, and just for the commissioners who are here, I mean, this is a different beast in and of itself. I mean, we don't have anything else in our zoning regulations like this. So, it's, a zone that is more dense than any district that we have in town. It provides for that increase in density, and, it was created with the intent of creating that transition zone.
Okay. Thank you. Yep, if you don't mind, just come up to the microphone, name and address, and
Hi, Donna Pursley at Marjorie Drive. Just coming to these meetings now to try to get a handle on what's going on in town. This new text amendment for the age-restricted housing, did that just pass last year?
It was effective January of last year, yes.
Okay, and you can't tell me this, but I'm guessing it was probably the applicant that put that, helped with that
Yes,
text
that
amendment.
was, I think they were the applicant, right, for the text amendment.
All right, so this is like an ongoing thing now. The propane thing, they make a text amendment, they put an application in. You've got the liquor stores, they make a text amendment, they put an application in. This is kind of an ongoing thing where the text amendments are being written by the applicants, basically. Somebody wants to change something in town, and they go through and they make a text amendment and they change the rules. I just been seeing this a little bit, and it just kind of bothers me that people who want to change the character of our town are writing the rules. It just, one of the things that's just been bothering me. Now this age-restricted housing, he says it's going to be, I guess in the amendment, there's a maximum of 5 units per acre. But that doesn't actually mean 5 units on an acre, because you have the roads, you've got the wetlands and everything else. So what is the minimum lot size that these houses are going to be on? 1/8 of an acre of lots? I mean, because you have 6 acres, and you have 100 feet of wetlands, that gets it down to about 5 3/4. You've got the roads, you've got the space in the middle. You're talking maybe 4.5 acres to put 25 houses on.
The density is based on the total acreage of the parcel.
That's true, that's true.
So that's how it's calculated.
That's
So
how it's
that's how,
calculated.
that's, in the regulations, it's up to 5 units per acre.
So they can make a plan however they want. They can have like 8-acre lots and still meet those requirements because of the road or the space in the middle. And we can have all these houses, and, okay, I'm 55. At 55, you can still have adult children. We have 3 cars. if you have single width driveways and adult children who in their 20s can be a bit loud, you can probably be having some noise complaints, and maybe this age restricting housing text amendment should have had a little bit more thought to it. It has nothing to do with this applicant, because they're just here for taking advantage of a text amendment that was written. But maybe some of these text amendments should have a little bit more thought put into them by the Planning and Zoning Commission and not being written by the applicants. So that's just my thought.
Any other public comments?
I just have to. So, I don't have exactly how many meetings the commission took to write the text amendment, but I just want to clarify that it was not written by the applicants. And I just want to give the commission the credit for working on the text amendment. So it was not the applicant who was writing it. Do they propose it? Absolutely, because that's their idea, right, to make change and bring change to the town. But by no means do I feel like the applicant wrote this text amendment, and the commission was very involved. So I just wanted to take that.
I mean, it's hard to tell what this is going to be like from a single site plan. I mean, 20 feet between all these houses, that's from me to you. Are these 2-story, 3-story houses? 2-story. So the elderly are going up and down the stairs all the time. I'm 2.
Behind.
Okay. And it's extremely dense. I mean, I live over on Natural Road, which next to Frederick Street, that little road that goes around there. This is twice as dense as Frederick Street, twice. These are 20 feet apart. Everything in Frederick Street has a 15-foot side yard, so there's no less than 30 or 40 feet between those houses. I don't know if you've been over there or not, but it's a nice little area, but it's a great idea to have all this, but it's high density is kind of just another way for saying low-income housing, except they're over 55 at this point. Just like I said, I think it could be handled a little nicer, that's all. Density, you really have to be careful with density.
The other thing, Gary, in our regulations, he can't have adult children living
Yeah,
there
I wanted
unless
to
they're a
clarify that.
caregiver.
Yeah, I wanted to
So,
clarify that under the age
I wanted to
restriction.
clarify about, you said you have 3 adult children living at home with you, and an adult age restricted, you cannot have that. The only way you can have another person there if they're an absolute caregiver to the couple. Other than that, they cannot have children living with them, regardless of age.
Okay, and I really didn't mean that the applicant wrote it. I mean, the applicants guide the whole process.
No, they only proposed it. In other words, they came to the town, they came to Carrie and said, you know, we're looking at this property, and do you think that the planning and zoning would maybe look at this floating zone text? And so then we looked into the floating zone, and as Carrie said, we had several meetings, and we reduced the size because originally we could have had 5 houses per acre, and we thought that was really dense. So we reduced it to 4, or 6, I'm sorry. 6 houses per acre, so we reduced it to 4.
There are 4.
Yeah.
The regs are 5.
Well, that's fine.
No, okay, reduced it to 5, excuse me.
Yeah.
And they reduced it again. They reduced it to 4.
Yeah, probably because
I think in most of your age restricted, you find that they are pretty close together. That's one of the criterias of building these. I'm not saying that this isn't too dense for the area. All I'm saying is that's nationwide usually what it is.
I'm in agreement. It's like I said, it's hard to tell from a preliminary plan. With landscaping and everything else, it could be a wonderful thing. You could have them next to each other and townhouses and like in New Haven, those look nice, but it's
Yes, please, if you don't mind, come up and
Sure.
name and address,
Yes.
address, and then statement.
Kathy Rajunas, I live at 60 Clintonville Road. I live in a condominium unit that is set back. You cannot see it from the street. We have 13 units there, and we sit on approximately 7.5 acres of land. The way, I wasn't there when they were built, I bought into them, but there are 13 townhouses, and they're very close together. And we sit in approximately the first third of the acreage of land. And we have everyone ranging in age from 30 on up. And I think that's an appropriate use of that land. Everything else around us are 1 acre lots. When I bought my condominium, I kind of bought in thinking and looking at the space around me, hoping that this is where I would live, and they were all 1 acre lots. And that parcel of land that they want to change to age restricted was also 1 acre lot. So you could possibly put on 4 to 5 more homes. And that's what I was anticipating, not 25 more homes. Now, certainly, there is a buffer between my house and the area of land that you are contemplating for the age restricted. And unfortunately, it's this woman here who is taking the brunt of everything. There is Clintonville Road, there's Firelight, there's the Ice Pavilion, and there's one landowner. It's not like this is being absorbed by multiple R40 land sections. It's one owner. If you see in this parcel right here, it's one person owns all of this, 1 acre of land, just one person. Do I feel for this person? Most definitely. There's a bit of land between her and our unit. Like I said, we sit on 7 acres of land, but you're impacting only one homeowner with 25 houses, where she was one homeowner with one home, the possibility being 5 homes. I know you worked as a whole and came up with this new zoning regulation, should I say, but you did it in unity with the owners. I watched the meetings you had, and you had many, many meetings regarding this new zoning application. I think the premise of age-restricted housing is a good one. I don't think it's good here, because these people in the age-restricted housing development will be surrounded, not in the area of R40. They're going to be surrounded on 3 sides by Firelight and the Ice Pavilion. I gotta tell you, even though I do live in a condo, I hear the sirens all the time, and there's accidents there quite frequently. It's very, very difficult to get out of that road. It's gonna make a major impact, a very major impact. And I'd also like to know, I have a question, and because I did some research beforehand. How much are these units gonna go for? I know you said it's a, as we get older, I'm in that group, it's another option for us. So I was wondering what the price of these units are gonna be?
We haven't said it.
About?
We haven't said it.
Oh, because, you know, I think I read in the paper, it said that it would bring in $220,000 more in taxes, so I don't know where that number came up. I don't know how we could come up with, we're gonna get more taxes if we don't know how much each unit is going to be approximately. I just think that this is a poor place. I don't know, and maybe you could answer this question too, where these other sections in our town, where this would, this new zoning regulation would go into effect.
Carrie has any perspective on that. I know it's beneficial to have it as a transition from industrial
Yep.
to a residential, so.
But where else? I know,
I think we need to have it
you
on-
spent a long time on this.
I think we need to have it on a major road as well.
Yep.
So it has to have like a Clintonville Road, another requirement if I recall
Yep.
correctly.
So where else in town could something like this go?
So state highway, anywhere where it's abutting, whether it's zoned residential and abutting industrial, or zoned industrial and abutting residential. Anywhere where there's sewer and water available.
But are there any other places in town like this?
There are, I don't have them listed out right now, but yes, they do exist. So, we don't have any applications at this time.
Because potentially, I think we were talking about this, where Northford Pond is, we as a group could go and do this also, because we
No.
abut, no?
No, because you don't abut, actually, I
Yeah,
guess
we
you could,
do.
I'm sorry, you could. Because it's.
So this poor woman in this house here, if we had so decided, we could do the same thing, because we abut industrial, which is the ice pavilion. We're on Clintonville Road, which is a major highway.
You're
We have
between 5 and
sewer,
15
we have
acres.
water,
Yep,
we have more acreage than they do.
yep.
So you could potentially have 25 units here, and since we have about 7 acres, we could have like 20, 30 homes on the other side of this woman.
Hmm.
I mean, these are things you gotta really think about. You know, we live in Northford, and this is why we bought in Northford. So, just, I thank you all though.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Any other comments from the public? More comments from the public? Commissioners, any comments, questions? I think for me, I think Carrie may have mentioned, I think she mentioned she hadn't reached out to the police. So, and someone just mentioned traffic, so I think it's appropriate that we get a referral back from the police.
I agree with you there, because you have a major factory, you have an ice pavilion with 3 rinks. There's a lot of traffic being funneled out to Clintonville Road, and I'd like some kind of study or some kind of response from either our police department or it's a state road, whoever the appropriate police are on that area, with adding, a massive amount of
The
houses.
fire marshal.
No, not at this stage, because we don't have the details.
You know, the density as it relates to traffic flow. And the other thing I had a
Could
question about was
Burton.
did I hear that the fee is $4,000?
Yes. So, hold on, let me get the
Anything to
detail.
do with taxes.
That's 47.
4,700.
That's in place of open space, wasn't it? For open space.
4917.66.
That's based on the standard calculation.
Yeah, I was wondering how we came up with that, because I know of a few other subdivisions that on 3 acres are paying 14,000, and this is a 6.5 acres, and it's only 4,000?
14,000 on 3 acres.
Maybe.
So the fair market value,
By Farmers Estate.
Taxes.
You pay
Open space.
taxes or
Not
open-
taxes.
Open space.
Open space.
That's not taxes.
This is open space.
This is in lieu
Payment
of
in
open
lieu of
space.
open space.
Right, in lieu of open space.
But that's not what you're paying taxes.
No, I'm paying in lieu of open spaces, 14,000. And I question why this amount is so low when other
Just on
people.
property, right? You have
On an average, it's $7,000 per acre on the subdivision.
So this is, the fair market value is $245,900.
Yeah.
10% of that is 24,590. And so you take that 10%, divide it by 6 acres, and you get the 4,098.33 cents. And then add in the 0.2, so for 1.2 acres, it would be $4,917.
Per acre.
Right, and they're required to have 1.2 acres of open space.
So it's 4,000 per acre?
No,
No,
for that 1.2.
For
Right, so the
1.2
question is, why is
acres
his,
that is supposed to be
why
open
is his
space.
father's estate on 3 acres paying
Well,
4,000?
I
Well,
think for
no, no,
tonight,
we can talk offline on this. but,
Yes,
You know,
yes.
let's hold that, you know, I have a question about the fee, and I also have a
That's fine.
question about the traffic flow,
Mhm.
and I too am concerned about the density. So there's 3 questions right there.
So you pay that every year, you're saying?
No,
You paid it
one time sale,
Then you should have just do it.
I did, they threw it back at me, that's what.
Any other questions? So we'll, I think,
So-
why I mentioned that was because we're gonna hold, right, we should
Continue to the next.
continue the public hearing to the next meeting. So we have back some information, at least from the police department, and I guess if we wanna.
Fran, did you want the fire marshal to weigh in as well?
Well, I think he should.
Okay.
I mean, even though it's not a site plan, and knowing that he knows the area, he knows how many times the EMT's gotta go back there, the fire department, he should weigh in on it.
Okay, okay. So I have a referral from the police, the fire marshal, and then double checking the fee. Is there anything else? Any other officials? I haven't, I've worked with Kurt Weiss, I could bring the building official in at this point, that's just a
Yeah,
concept,
that's-
so typically we have the meeting with the developer and all of the department heads, but that's once we have a concept plan. I mean, we could start the dialogue now.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fire marshal, but it's probably gonna be access to fire vehicles and the roads, and I'm sure it's a standard road and it probably meets it. And they're gonna be looking at a concept, it's a concept now.
Doesn't matter, he knows what is possible there. So I think that he could weigh in on it, doesn't have to know exactly what's going on. He just has to know that it's what the floating zone will allow. And if he thinks that is a reasonable thing for him to say it would be all right.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just ask a question with the
Yep, if you
approximate
just
sizes?
get up, sorry, just
And up.
name and
I'm
address.
George Healy. I'd just like to know the approximate size of these units. Was it 1,400 to 1,700 square feet?
That's correct. Give or take, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So that it's not restricted by the restriction, it's not limited to those, new regulations.
It's not limited.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, Chris Krenek, 49 Portland Drive. I was just curious if we could find out, what's the density over at Montgomery Village? How many units?
Chris, can you come up here, because you're behind a pillar.
Give the mic, Chris, if you don't mind.
Chris Krenek, 49 Portland Drive. I was curious what the density is over at Montgomery Village, which I understand is also 55 and over.
I believe it's actually, it may even be maybe just under 1 unit per acre, because they have a large parcel. I think they have about 50 acres, I want to say. They're all clustered, So if you took just the area that they're developed on, you know, I'm not sure what that breakout would be as far as square footage per unit on the land that they're on. I don't think those are parcels though, just like this wouldn't be a parcel, that was another clarification I wanted to make, because it would be owned by the association, that the property owner would just own the building, is my understanding, right? So there would be an association that would own the land. So if you're looking at Montgomery Village though, I believe it would have a similar feel as far as the units right next to one another and grouped in that way. But it's a very different size parcel, because Montgomery Village has a lot of open space in the back.
Yeah, the density between the units or density on the total lot size.
Well, now that you raise it, there's two different issues. So what are the total units at Montgomery, and then how close are they physically? I mean, I understand what you're saying, there'd be 10 acres back there that's not being used, but it'd be nice to know what.
I think they're pretty much either 15 or 20 feet apart in the clusters.
That they're in. So that would be similar to this, 15 to 20
Right.
feet. And do we know how many units?
50, I believe.
50? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Any other comments from the public? Commissioners, anything else? Should we'll continue this to the next meeting?
Yes, the 19th, January 19th.
Could I say a couple of things?
Yes, yeah.
First of all, I want to echo what your town planner has said, and particularly for the benefit of the people here. I don't think they understand how very hard you all worked on this regulation over many, many public hearings. And it certainly is a product, it's your product. You're the ones that thought it through very carefully, and you're the ones that passed it. It's always difficult for people when they're used to living next to open space to see it be developed. Everybody always wants to be the last house in their neighborhood. And that's not always possible when an applicant comes forward with a plan that meets all the regulations for that particular land. And a lot of what you're hearing tonight is a very understandable feeling of neighbors that they would prefer that this land not be developed. But if in fact the plan meets your regulations, then it has a right to be developed. Also, the details will be coming forth so that people can have a better understanding of what this will look like and what it will feel like. But everyone should also understand that people will self-select to be in this neighborhood. If they don't want to live in close proximity to their neighbor, they won't buy one of these units. These units are for people who do not want a lot of land, do not want a lot of responsibility for land, and would like to live in a fairly close community. They're the ones who will live here. The people who don't like that kind of living will live someplace else in North Branford. Also, I would point out you do have a traffic study with your application materials for this application. And we'll look forward to hearing the comments from the police and fire department and to seeing you again.
Okay, thank you.
Will this be at your next public hearing or?
This will be at the next meeting, which is
The 19th, January 19th.
Can I just have a minute? I'm afraid I'm in another hearing that night. Just a minute.
So we do have a traffic study, but we still ask for the police department to weigh in. Yeah, I looked quickly earlier, I didn't find it.
I'm sorry to ask this, but could we put it to the next meeting after that? Which would be February, I don't know,
February 2nd.
February 2nd. Do the commissioners have any issue with that? February 2nd.
Is that okay on the second? Thank you very much.
Excuse me, one quick question. The traffic study, I'm just looking at it. Is that from the surveyor or from?
It's from the same company, but it's a big company. That's from their traffic engineer. It's also from VL Company, it's the same one who did the concept study, but it's from the traffic engineer.
It doesn't specify.
Doesn't say traffic engineer?
Just traffic effect assessment.
Well, that's the subject matter. That's not the expertise of the person writing the letter.
Would you like the?
No, we'll go through the town.
Whoever filled for professional.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue this at our February 2nd meeting. This public hearing will be continued. Okay, so moving on to number 5, on A, we've already said that we'll continue the public hearing until February 2nd. So that brings us to possible action on PZ application 2016-14. It's the Reynolds Beers House public hearing.
I don't know if there's any discussion. I have a
Yeah.
motion drafted.
Any further discussion on this? Reynolds Beers?
I should have mentioned also, we have the green cards, or the town sent out the green cards. There were all but 3 that were returned. So 3 just haven't been picked up, but we did mail them out.
Now, the Historical Society used to be in the gray building behind the old town hall, right?
Center School.
Center School. When that was there a special use for that building?
I don't know.
You mean they're in now?
No, before they moved.
Center School.
They were in old Center School.
Oh.
And they moved, I guess, right, to the Bear House.
Well, they'd be grandfathered in, wouldn't they?
Okay, I move to approve application number 2016-14, special use permit under the section 23, Schedule A, line B-3.1 for the use of Reynolds Beer House on existing building as a museum at 1740 Foxen Road, Assessor Map 26, Lot 34, Zone R40, owner Town of North Branford, as submitted on application documents and shown on plans with the following conditions. 14, adherence to the requirements of building officials stated in his review, December 9th, 2016, see attached, and adherence to the requirements of the filing marshal. There are no special conditions.
A second? David, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
So that's 4-0, and then we're gonna do,
40, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
4-0.
Okay.
4-0, yeah. Tricia's abstained. David, second. Okay, next, under 6 is, under old business, is the PZ application 2014-15-6, which is the propane 40 Sierra Road.
I don't have any updates on that.
So no further updates, that'll be just continued. That brings us to 7, under new business, request for bond release, BP 2001.
Let's take a 5-minute break or something.